With the third and final installment of How to Train Your Dragon coming out next year, March 1st, I found myself re-exploring the franchise. If you guys have not seen either of the movies, you should definitely give it a watch. So, one of the things that I found myself asking as I watched the first one was, how exactly did Hiccup lose his leg? The ordeal happens when Hiccup and Toothless are fighting the Red Death, which is the villainous colossal dragon, near the end of the first movie. All seems to be going fantastic until Hiccup and Toothless are unable to avoid the Green Death, or Red Death's tail. When Hiccup and Toothless are knocked away by the large club on the end of the Red Death's tail, Hiccup is knocked unconscious and starts to make his deadweight descent back into the fire. So, as we can see here, he has both legs. And as you look closely, you can also see that he's falling head first. Toothless knows that in order to save Hiccup, he has to protect him from the fire. We've included the clip so you guys can watch it again yourselves. You can see that Toothless has mere milliseconds to catch up to Hiccup before he's enveloped in the fire. Those who are saying that Hiccup's leg was badly burned in the fire doesn't make any sense, because if anything would have been burned in the fire, it would have been his hair and upper body first, not just one of his legs, so that totally doesn't make any sense. The only logical and plausible explanation is that Toothless had to grab onto one of Hiccup's legs quickly in order to pull him close so that the dragon could envelop him to protect him from the flames. Toothless is handicapped himself, and so there's no way he could do this in a controlled manner. Falling from that height, with maybe an average weight and height, factoring in air resistance, Hiccup is probably falling anywhere from 100 to 150 miles per hour. There's essentially no time for Toothless to catch up to Hiccup, and the best that Toothless can do to save him, as best as possible, from being burned to death, is to yank one of his legs, which is the closest appendage to Toothless. You can actually see in the clip that Toothless is reaching out his arms to try and catch Hiccup. Unfortunately, his neck and head have a better reach than his arms, and unfortunately the dragon makes his best judgment by grabbing onto Hiccup's legs with the closest thing to it, his teeth. If Toothless had retracted his teeth, it is very possible Hiccup could have slipped from out of his grasp. And so, to quickly grab Hiccup in time, to also pull him close to his body, Toothless had to snap onto one of Hiccup's legs and yank him quickly enough to get him in position so that he could wrap his wings around Hiccup. Dragons are very powerful. In this desperate need to save Hiccup, the last thing that Toothless was probably thinking about was being gentle. Of course, to us, they both look like they're falling in slow motion, but you can tell how fast Hiccup is falling because the Night Fury has to flap or fly downwards to catch up to him, which he's barely able to do in the nick of time. So let's imagine that Hiccup is falling at 100 miles per hour. If you were going at 100 miles per hour and then suddenly your leg was yanked in the complete opposite direction while you're still going at 100 miles per hour, what do you think would happen? Let's also consider that Toothless would not only be clamping down on Hiccup's leg, but also forcefully dragging it backwards to pull Hiccup into his body. Now, to give you a more graphic demonstration, imagine, and please don't ever do this, but imagine that you're in a car that's going 100 miles per hour. Now also imagine you have your legs sticking out of the passenger side of the car, flailing about. While you're going 100 miles per hour, so is your leg and everything else in the car. Now, imagine another car going quickly in the opposite direction or coming towards you from the opposite direction on the other side of the road, the side that your leg is on. What do you imagine would happen to your leg? My mother is a nurse, and she's seen many gory situations, and this was one of them. For some unknown reason, a guy had his leg out of the passenger side of his friend's car. A bus was driving from the other direction and hit the guy's leg. She described the scene as this. The part where the knee connected to the rest of the body was hanging on loosely by only a thread, and the rest of the leg from the knee down was stripped completely of the meat, which was dangling off at the bottom of the foot. Of course, the guy's leg had to be amputated because it was what amounted to pulled pork. Now, although there's no cars involved, the speed, kinetic force, and other factors are quite similar in the situation with Hiccup and Toothless. Hiccup even joked about this in How to Train Your Dragon 2.
The crazy thing is, I'm actually the one who shot him down. Hey, Hey, it's okay though. He got me back.
He went on to telling his mother that Toothless couldn't save all of him. It was a joke because Toothless did not mean to hurt him, but it's very obvious from what Hiccup said that Toothless was in fact responsible for him losing his leg. So, to recap, it is Toothless who was responsible for Hiccup losing his leg, albeit unintentionally. Unintentionally. It was either that or lose all of Hiccup. So that's our theory. So when you guys watched How to Train Your Dragon, what did you think happened to cause Hiccup to lose his leg? I initially thought it might have been the crash, but after watching the second movie and listening to what Hiccup said to his mom, it caused me to rethink it a little bit. Let us know in the comments, and thank you so much for watching. This has been Altiori. You ask, we answer.